Hi, this is Devlog 2 for Domino Deadpool FanGame. Yeah, I'm still working on that name. Thanks for your comments and questions. I will answer questions that I received so far in this video. And if you have any questions, please put them in the comment section. I do reply to them, so go ahead and throw them in there. This devlog was going to be bigger, but I ran into some programming issues that actually turned out to be a good thing. I will go over that and bring you up to date with my progress. I got a comment from Vincent DBD, a fellow Unreal Engine user. He's looking forward to playing this game when available. Now, this game may or may not be allowed to be released to the public. Fan games can sometimes get tangled in copyright issues. Never know the final outcome here, but I am gambling that it is highly likely I can release it. If it gets released, and most likely there is a workaround to release it, it will be free to play, and I will let you know where to get it. Now, I actually have another agenda here for creating this game. I am learning more about developing in Unreal Engine, and I am hoping to have a strong grasp on being able to troubleshoot and solve technical issues that can arise from game dev. If everything works out well, I will be making an original game title later down the road. The story of that game is in works. Let me reiterate some guiding points for this game. It'll be driven and built around the looks of the characters. I need to stay as efficient as possible when it comes to time and effort. And finally here, I need to keep the art up to the quality bar I have set. Now, while I'm on this point, I got a comment from Sebastian about learning more about concept art and storyboarding in video games. There are really good GDC talks about concepts and storyboards for games. I will leave the link in the description of some of my favorites if you're interested. For me as a solo developer, I find it best to handle these things using guerrilla tactics instead of the traditional way. Usually in games, this sort of stuff is handled in the concept phase or possibly added into pre-production. Because I'm not relying on a team of concept artists, I will do this visualizing as needed and keep my effort as efficient as possible. For this game, I am using a template with a primary gameplay already set. The interactions between characters is pretty much set as well. However, later on, I will be adding custom characters and custom character interactions. This will be optimized by the use of concept sketching and storyboarding in a efficient style. So efficient for solo game dev is quick sketching that takes maybe an hour or less. These sketches I have zero fear of throwing out and starting over if necessary. These quick sketches can be iterated upon, building up to a very precise look for the game. I find it not very productive to develop a high-rendered piece of art on the level of what you would see in a finalized illustration. It's much better to sketch the idea where you can take notes, review without fear of trashing the sketch if needed. So here are some examples I found scrolling through ArtStation. These are the more sketch-style concepts that I find better suited for projects like mine. Now, these other ones are more like promotional art illustrations. They look great, but too much time and energy spent on concept work for a project like this. Also, I will be using reference images from the movie Deadpool 2 to replace most of the concept exploration, and custom characters and props will be sketched out quickly, similar to the examples I just showed. Now, when it comes to modeling for different assets, I'm already planning to use pre-built environments, props, and VFX that I can find on Unreal's marketplace. I am capable of editing textures and materials where needed, but this will speed up my progress a great deal. Jumping back into the game making, at this point, my milestone was to get Domino prototype into the game template as soon as possible. So I adjusted the clothes for Domino and ZBrush. While I was adjusting, I was thinking over how the model topology should look for efficient animation. Also, I dove deeper into the game template best practices and requirements. I found information that eliminates using a custom rig and custom proportions, well, at least at first. This is actually a common way to get the most out of the Unreal pre-made animation sequences that are created for the mannequins. By simply using a rig that was built for the mannequins or Manny and Quinn from UE5, instead of using a custom rig, it'll make it a whole lot easier to be able to use those animation sequences right away. Also, to keep the animation adjusting time down to a minimal, it's best to keep my model's proportions very close to Manny and Quinn's proportions. A good example of this, where it can get really tricky, is around the finger positions. So imagine a character grabbing a weapon or an item off the ground. This can look a little wacky if the proportions aren't lined up, or if you don't spend a good amount of time retargeting and re-rigging the character's hands. Now, I'm just going to throw this in here. I'm talking about good alignment for the UE5 rigs. I've actually created base meshes that align to Manny and Quinn. So since Domino is being created from those base meshes I created, it makes it easy at this prototyping phase to quickly get a model rigged and animated in Unreal. I'll go ahead and leave the link to these base meshes in the description if you're interested. Now, thinking about what is animation optimal for the game template in Unreal Engine, I will eventually need to merge the many separate parts of my Domino model into 5 components. I'll have hair, head and neck, torso, arms, legs and feet, and the eyes. The eyes being separate because Unreal Engine has a unique way for handling realistic eyes. This separation will make it easy to do modular changes, so other custom characters can be created faster and technically easier. Also, variations with model skins have more control. So let's say I decide to make an alternate version of Domino. It's very tempting. Anyway, let me talk about the hiccups that I mentioned at the start of this video. I, for an unknown impulsive reason, decided now was the time to take the leap and update Unreal Engine 5.1 to the 5.3 series. This update slowed me down a bit as I updated all the assets from the older version to the newer one. A few freezes and a few crashes, but so far everything seems to be good. And once again, I would much rather have these types of problems happen and get resolved early on, not later. Updating a game engine is definitely a gamble, but this time I lucked out. With that issue resolved, I retargeted the Quinn default character from UE5 to the UE4 mannequin, which is used in this current game template that I'm using. This also had a few issues and freezes, and it did crash a few times. This happened because I was tinkering with the player's blueprint. Luckily, I did the smart thing here, and I duplicated those blueprints before I start tinkering around, and I worked on the duplicated versions. So the crashes did happen, but the crashes didn't break the original and essential programming to this game. And also, good news, Quinn is working out great. The next thing I did was copied the skin weights from Quinn and gave them to Domino's prototype, her second version of a prototype. Now, Domino was placed in the game. She imported with errors that I knew would be errors, nothing to stop the testing. Since she is using the Quinn rig, I was able to get her placed in the prototype game quickly. I just had to assign her the original game skeleton, and she worked out great. There are areas because of skin weight issues, not the skin weights not being refined, and some of this topology does need to be cleaned up, but nothing for me to worry about for Domino's second prototype model. A little side note here, this is a process that's good to get used to for dealing with updating in the Unreal Engine templates, if you're using the templates. Specifically, I'm talking about with rigged characters. Simply reassigning the newer skeleton of the characters to whatever that game rig is, and then doing Unreal Engine skeleton retargeting saves a lot of trouble. Now, getting back into the prototypes that I have for Domino, there will be 3 versions of these prototypes. And this current one that you're seeing is the second one. The first prototype was from the last video, and that was made for import and export checks, and also just to make sure that I can put an asset into the scenes. This second prototype is still a rough version, but it's for the rigging and animation checks in Unreal Engine. Now, the third prototype is going to be the proposed final topology and the final poly count. It'll be separated into those modular components, those 5 components that I was talking about. UVs will be clean and the materials will be set up properly with proper naming conventions for both material and the modular parts. Also, not to mention, the rig skinning will be on point. With these prototypes, I should be able to see any setbacks before they become a real time suck. If all works out well, I can slide into the game model problem-free. So far, so good. I can check off this milestone. And once again, any questions or comments, I will definitely get back to you. So just put them in the comments section below. See you soon.